some lovely mushrooms and leaves for our October digital no-date planner pages this month. Vintage-inspired old-time-looking mushrooms in sepias and browns, along with a gorgeous green to go along with our planner. We have tags and vintage-inspired mushroom postcards ephemera. Are you ready for fall and jumping into your planner with fun new ideas? Patty here, and let's get started. I went to the garden and found some leaves that have prominent veins. My favorite was a leaf of the sage plant, but the Japanese maple was tiny and delicate. The coleus and shishu had great veining and worked nicely. I covered the leaves with tempera paint sticks. These paint sticks are great for using for this purpose, as you could rub the paint stick over the leaf and get down into the nooks and cracks easily. If you don't have the paint sticks, any acrylic paint and a paintbrush would work just fine. Use what you have. I picked the colors black, gold, and green, rubbing the paint stick over the leaf till it looked completely covered with paint. If you use two different colors on your leaf, the tip of your paint stick will get the secondary color on it, but it easily wiped off onto your scrap paper. I want to cover the white envelopes in my no-date planner pages with leaves. I made sure to add a scrap piece of paper to the underside of the envelope and brayer over the top of the leaf several times. Wow, I really like the veining of this sage leaf. Let's try the Japanese maple leaf. It's small and will fit into the area that the bigger leaves won't. I used the gold paint stick on this leaf. If you rub too hard, you can damage your leaf. I broke the stem off the tiny leaf, but still will give it a try, using the same process of rubbing the leaf with the brayer. The gold didn't show up as well, so I added a little black to the coleus leaf and will give it a try. This would be a great project to do with your kids. Each one turns out so differently. I was going to try a fake leaf, but it just didn't have the veins on the back side, so decided against it. I like the sage leaf best and use it several times in different places. A little orange on this print using just the tip of the leaf turned out great. I got a little paint onto the page. You need to make sure your scrap paper under the envelope is covering all of your page. I tried to use the paint stick on the fern leaf and rip the fern tip. It was much more delicate, and I had a hard time using the paint stick on this type of leaf. It just wasn't getting the coverage. So I tried to spritz it with a little water. Can't say that helped. why I tried a little acrylic paint and tried to cover the fern leaf. But I had too much water on the leaf now, and it wasn't covering the leaf like the others had. I tried it on the leaf that didn't have the spritz of water, and the coverage worked much better. Found another blank white envelope and tried my fern leaves onto it. It made a smeary mess, but I like the faded look to this piece. Found a stamp and added black archival ink onto it and stamped onto the brown scrap paper I had on my desk once before I stamped onto the envelope over the fern leaves. This still wasn't the look I was going for, so what to do next? I have some of the sage leaves that I had stamped onto the brown scrap paper in gold and decided to rip one of the leaves out and add it to the fern leaf background. I want a ripped edge to give it a vintage look and rip it down to size to fit my envelope. After getting it to the size I wanted, I inked the edges with the timber brown and my StazOn ink. I like how this is looking now with the background. This video is in real time, and so you see how I work, which may be a little scattered, but the envelope needs to dry and I need to think about what else will go on it, like a quote or something. So in the interim, I want to make a journaling card with this big maple leaf and my new spritz. That gave me a nice print, and it will need to dry now. When I had these digitals printed, they printed them portrait instead of landscape. They did reprint them for me for free and let me keep the misprinted sheets, which I thought I could cut up and use in collages. This may work for my page tab for the front page. I want to rip the mushrooms off this page. I tear along the bottom to get a deckled edge, but around the mushrooms I used my scissors to get a straight edge, and I could go around the mushroom easier. After I get this all cut out, I inked around those edges with the timber brown. This is dark, but I like the look. I'm going to fold this in sort of half and fit it over the cover page to make a page tab. I want it to stick out enough that I can put an eyelet into the edge and have a tag for October, hanging off the page tab. I fit it over the page and cover the edges with Stays-On ink so no white edges show through. Cut out the October nomenclature and make a tag using a piece of the sprayed maple leaf journaling card that we worked on earlier. When I glued the mushroom page tab onto the cover page for October, I added a little piece of dyed cheesecloth to both sides of the page tab to give it a little texture and make it stand out on the cover page a bit more. Now to add an eyelet onto the page tab and to make the tag that will dangle off the page tab with the month on it. I also cut off a piece to layer a quote to the envelope that we made that just needed a little something more. I typed up on Word a page of quotes and saying to use in my journals. Every time I find a quote I like, I just add it to my page of journaling quotes and print them off when needed. They need to be backed with a piece of cardstock because I only printed them out on 28-pound copy paper. Ink the edges before adding to your project. I did both the quote for the envelope and the tag for the cover page at this point. I added the word October 2025 on one side of the tag, and on the other side it just says October. So you can read October in my planner from any direction. I added an eyelet to the tag also, as it will be dangling from my planner pages and make it ripped off if it just has a hole punch into the cardstock. I used a bulb pin to add the tag to the page tab and let it dangle off the edge. I find the envelope in my planner that I want to add the quote, "Let curiosity be your compass," and glue it to the envelope. Cut a slit at the end of the envelope so I can add a tag for my to-do list for this week in my planner, or any other receipts of items I find of interest to add, such as journaling quotes and sayings printed on copy paper, extra tags for monthly labeling, ephemera pieces such as cutouts from misprinted sheets or decorative paper scraps, small pieces of dyed cheesecloth or fabric for added texture, mini envelopes or pockets for organizing tiny items, labels or stickers for future projects, pre-cut shapes or die cuts like mushrooms or leaves, decorative paper clips or bulb pins for attaching elements to pages. How about some mini inspirational quotes or affirmation cards? That's why I like envelopes in my planner so much, as you can add all kinds of items. I've already cut out the tags and the postcards from the 2 ephemera pages and inked the edges. I also used my scissors around the edge of the pieces to give them a worn look and feel. The ink around the edges absorbs into the paper more when you do this technique to the edges of your tags and gives it a darker vintage look. Now we need to decorate the back side of this envelope that has a window. I pick one of the postcards to add to the inside of the envelope so you can see something when you pull the tag out. I want the mushroom to show a little through the window, so I try different postcards into the area to see which one will look the best. After I find the one I want to use, I get it into place and then glue it right to the inside of the envelope. The postcard is just about the right size to fit into this area of the window of the envelope. If there's any place where you can see around the postcard, we can cover that up when we add the papers to the outside of the envelope. I pick another piece of the digitals that were printed wrong and rip them up to fit onto the envelope, trying to add a few more mushrooms to this piece. Ink around the edges of the envelope so the stark white doesn't show, and layer the pieces onto the envelope. I want the top of the mushroom to be on the largest part of the white space of the envelope. I could fold the piece and then rip it to fit so the window is exposed. I added the bottom stem of the mushroom to the bottom portion of the envelope so it looks like a mushroom with a layered mushroom between in the window. I think this is turning out great for this envelope. I added a little piece on the side and covered up a tiny portion of the postcard in the window because it was just a tiny bit too small. I don't think you'd even notice, but adding the piece down the side adds to the layers. I made sure that the envelope slit that I had cut was still open and cut off any excess paper sticking out over the edge of the envelope. Ink all of the edges just to make sure no white is showing through. I need to add some twine to the top of my tags before I add them into the pockets. I did this off camera and I'm ready to add the postcards as pockets onto a few pages. This short piece of dyed paper will work great for a pocket and a tag. I glue 3 sides of the postcard to the page so I can insert a tag. I check to see if it will work out, but will let the postcard dry before I add the tag for good, or it may get stuck into the pocket from part of the glue. Let's add a few tags to the pieces. This envelope needs to have the flap glued down and a new slit added. The slit on this envelope will be at the top. I love how those leaves made such good impressions onto the page. Add a few more pockets to these pages. Simple, but they serve the purpose of having some place to put my tags for my to-do list for the weeks. Now to do a flip through and add a few more tags to the dried pockets. This month, or should I say, year, is really coming together. I've been thinking about what to do next year for my planner. I'm always trying to come up with new ideas for pages and ways to use different pieces in different ways. On my monthly planner page, I have an area for inspirations, and I've been inspired by Diyenvelopes and her watercolor paintings, along with her doodles, and I think next year I may dive into my watercolor paintings a bit more. Hope to see you next month. Bye now.